Hi everyone, it's Amanda. So I'm trying my SLR camera today because my iPad ran out of storage, and that's how I've made my videos until now because it's easier and quicker. But we're gonna try this, and I have a feeling the picture will be better, so this might be the videos I make from here on out. But I'm gonna show you what I read in April. First book I read, I took out of the library, and it is called First to Die by James Patterson. It is the first book in the Women's Murder Club series, and I really enjoyed it. It was about a serial killer who was targeting newlyweds right after they got married, and it was very fascinating. I enjoyed the main character, Lindsay Boxer. She gets together with a group of friends who are all in the crime kind of profession. There's a medical examiner. Lindsay is a homicide detective, and she's got a district attorney, and then a reporter. They all get together and decide to work together to try to solve it. I enjoyed it a lot, and I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. I'm going to be continuing that series as I go. Then I read The Good Sister by Drusilla Campbell. This book was very interesting. It is about a mother who has postpartum depression, and she is accused of doing something to her child. And that's as far as I want to go with that, because I think you should go into this not knowing a lot. I really didn't. This was for my A to Z challenge, and I'm so glad I put it in there because I probably wouldn't have picked this one up sooner had it not been there. But the story was one of those books that was really hard to put down. The controversial topic, and I just found it very fascinating. I gave this one 4 out of 5 stars. Then I read House of Echoes by Brendan Duffy. I received this from NetGalley in exchange for an honest review, and I have to be honest and say that I just really didn't enjoy this one. I DNF'd it at 46%, and it was because there was really nothing that special about it that made me want to continue. Plus, I was in a pretty big reading slump, so that had a lot to do with probably why I didn't enjoy it as much as I would have. It's a horror story about a family that moves into a house. They move from the city to the country because they're having trouble in the city, and they move to this house and something strange happened, and just strange things are happening. But it just felt like something I've heard so many times before in so many different movies, and I just didn't feel like there was anything that original about it. And only one thing happened by 46% that was a tiny bit creepy, and it just wasn't enough to hold my attention. So I didn't rate that one because I didn't finish it, but it wasn't my favorite. After that, I picked up Within These Walls by Anya Allborn. Now this one I received from Goodreads, from a Goodreads giveaway, and I was so happy to have won this because I really enjoyed this one. It's about a man who writes true crime stories, and he is contacted by this man that has been implicated in murders. He's in prison, and he contacts him and tells him he'll give him an interview if the author agrees to live in the house where the murder has occurred. And he decides to do that. So he goes with his teenage daughter and lives in this house, and really creepy things happen. And the big part of it is the murderer, the man in prison, has not given any interviews. So he is very interested to get this interview. It was so good, and it really reminded me of the Manson family because it has to do with a cult, and I think the author even mentioned the Manson family a couple times in the book. I can tell she got some inspiration from that story, and it was just really creepy. It got to a point where I could only read this book during the day because at night when I would read it, I would get a little bit scared because I live in an older house, and some of the things that were happening in the house in the book made me a little nervous, which is kind of funny because I usually don't get scared, but this one did give me the creeps. I also love the cover. This book just came out, I believe, in April, and I would absolutely 100% recommend it if you're a fan of horror stories because I think you would really like it. Also, if you're a fan of, cult kind of stories about how people will follow and all these things. I ended up giving this one 4 out of 5 stars. Then I read Forbidden by Ted Dekker and Tosca Lee. This one took me pretty much the entire month of April, and when I read it, I was in my reading slump, so I know I didn't enjoy it as much as I could have. It's a dystopian story where scientists have developed this way of isolating the genes that have to do with each emotion, and so they removed all the genes for emotion except for one, and that is the emotion of fear. So the only emotion that the people in the society feel is fear. But there's a boy named Rom, I believe. Yes, Rom. He is, well, I think he's a teenager, but one day an old man comes up to him and offers him a vial of blood, and he drinks this blood and it gives him emotions. And so then the race is on. He's a hunted man, and it goes from there. It was really good and very unique. I found it to be enjoyable. It had kind of like a fantasy feel to it because the names were strange, took place in Rome, and it seemed like it was in the past, but it was actually in the future. And there's a lot of Christian symbolism to this book. It is written by Christian authors, but I think that if you are not concerned with this symbolism, you could still read this book and really enjoy it for what it is without looking deeper into it. I found it to be very interesting. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. The last one I have is The Real Doctor Will See You Shortly by Matt McCarthy. This one I received from Blogging for Books.